Caesar Snack Sandwich. Today I have a quick video for you on baseline. Now it's been a little while since I've made some videos, so bear with me. I might be a little bit rusty or so forth. But anyhow, today I've decided to get back into it. It is September and time for back to school, so to speak. Anyhow, so this is today I'm going to look at baseline. Now baseline came across my desk because someone shared this Machi coin with me and he says that it's using this baseline. So I decided to take a look at this and find out what's going on here. Okay, so as always, I would suggest you to come and read the baseline docs. I guess I'll try to put that in the description or so forth. But you can always search for it and find it. Baseline. It's a baseline.markets, right? So baseline is a pretty cool concept. Generally speaking, it uses Uniswap version 3 to kind of create a backed token, a token that has a floor price and is always redeemable to that floor price. So the entire supply of tokens can always be sold to that floor price. So you don't have a situation where you're going to get completely rugged by a protocol that uses baseline correctly. As always, like read the docs. I do have a flowchart for you, so I will use the flowchart to go through how I understand this thing. Now, I'm basing everything on me reading these docs. So if these docs are inaccurate, then of course my video will be inaccurate too. But it's good enough to get you an idea of what's going on inside this baseline system. Okay, so let's swing over to the flowchart and do that. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart. We have Ceazor and the Ceazor token, and we have baseline in the middle. Now, baseline is a protocol for Ceazor to create some liquidity, tradable liquidity for his token. It doesn't grant utility to his token. It doesn't give a purpose for the Ceazor token. It just creates liquidity for that token and has some reassurances for the investors of that token. So Ceazor is going to create his own token somehow, okay? Baseline does not mint the Ceazor token for him. It's not a launch pad or a token launcher, right? It's basically a place where you can create liquidity for your token. So Ceazor has to mint his own token somehow and bring it to baseline, okay? So there's a little bit of risk there. You have to pay attention to that. You have to look at that. There's no insurances there. Now, everything that baseline does is automated and permissionless. So there's a lot of public calls that people can call and create, and readjust things and rebalance things. Now, Ceazor could do all of these things manually with his multi-sig or with his, wallet or whatever. However, by having baseline do it, it's easier for Ceazor, and there are some assurances for the investors, like Ceazor cannot pull the liquidity from the liquidity pool and so forth. Okay. So let's get into the meat and kind of explain and understand how this thing works as an overview. So Ceazor's going to come with that token and he's going to provide it to baseline and he's going to select the other token. In this case, he's going to do a pre-sale. Okay, so let's say he like a liquidity generation event. So he wants to create some liquidity. He doesn't have a bunch of USDC, but he wants to source this USDC and create some liquidity for that. So he does like a kind of what they're calling an IBLV, which is initial baseline value, like pre-sale kind of. Okay. Now, there's some things inside the docs that kind of they're not red flags, but maybe yellow flags. You got to kind of pay attention. It clearly says in the docs that he doesn't have to put all his liquidity in there because the baseline doesn't create that token for him. He can create a whole bunch and then only put some inside this initial baseline baseline value pre-sale thing. Okay, so you got to kind of do some research on that if you're going to participate in any of these pre-sales on baseline for other tokens, right? So now the reasoning for this is because they understand, quote unquote, they understand that there could be another pre-sale. There could be, seed investors or VC investors that need tokens, or maybe even the team and so forth. So some of the tokens will go in here, and he will select USDC as the token of this pre-sale. Now, let's say dollar bill comes along. Dollar bill has USDC. He wants to get in on the ground floor with Ceazor token. He wants to join this pre-sale. So he's going to participate in this fixed price auction. So he's going to put in some USDC and get out some Caesar tokens from this thing. Now, I don't think those Caesar tokens come to him immediately. I think that at the end of the pre-sale, there's a conclusion button, and then he will get his Caesar tokens together. Okay. Now he could sell them immediately if he wanted to, if there's some price speculation and so forth. But let's go through a little bit more, and we'll kind of find out what's going on. Now that USDC that goes in, that all of these pre-sale participants put in here, it's going to go into the floor, the anchor, and the afterburner. Okay, and I will talk about each of these little features in more detail as we go along. Now, at the end of this pre-sale, Caesar has to select the liquidity depth. Okay, now this is a basically he's going to select how wide the price range of his token should be. If he makes it very wide, then there's going to be more volatility because there will be less liquidity at every price tick. If he creates the liquidity depth very thin, then it's going to have less volatility and people will be buying more, can buy more at the same price and have less price impact and so forth. So that's up to him to select at that point, okay? And after he selects that, then the USDC will be distributed between the floor and the anchor. And then there's also the Caesar tokens that are left over. And I'm not sure if he can add more at this point. Those Caesar tokens are then thrown into what they call discovery. Okay, and I'll show you a chart, and it's right here. Okay, so as you can see, this is kind of the result after he selects that liquidity depth and initializes the pool for public trading, basically. So the floor price is selected here, and the anchor price is here, and then these discovery prices are here. Okay, so this floor price is basically a price that the market the token can never be go below. Now it's calculated based on all of the circulating tokens outside of the liquidity pool. So it takes the entire supply and minuses the supply that's inside the liquidity pool, like in this discovery area, and it kind of says, oh, the floor price should be here. So the floor price, if every single token outside in circulation gets sold, then this floor price will be depleted. Okay, so anyone who buys at market knows that it can never go below floor price because they will always be able to sell and get their share of this floor price or some of this anchor if they sell earlier. Okay. Moving on. So we have Boosted Bill. Boosted Bill's more degen than his brother, right? So he wants something a little bit more degen than just simply buying the token and waiting for the market price to go up and maybe even the floor price to go up, okay, which I'll talk about in a second. So he wants something more degen. So he's going to participate in the baseline value loans. Okay, so this system allows for loans of the token. So instead of selling the token, you can borrow against it. Okay, and the borrow value of these tokens is based on the floor price. So if he buys at market price, he can borrow at floor price. Okay, so there's a little bit of a loss there, but only if he immediately sells, right? If he immediately exits and tries to sell. Now, so some key features of these loans are that they are fixed term. So he will select the term. The docs doesn't say like a maximum and a minimum. And it also doesn't say if Ceazor can fix that, if he can select the fixed term max and minimum or not. I don't know, right? But I'm pretty sure the minimum can be 1 day or or very small. But the maximum, I don't know. Okay. So fixed term. At the end of the term, he has to repay his debt before the end of the term. There's no interest, so there's no reoccurring time-based interest. His debt does not grow over time. However, there is a borrow fee. So if he borrows $100, then he owes $101 or whatever that borrow fee is. Again, it doesn't say that there's a set borrow fee, and it doesn't say whether or not Ceazor gets to select the borrow fee or not. Okay. These isolated risk markets, so only they're not, uh, there's not many collaterals, and they're not all the different collaterals on baseline are not being pooled together, and the USDC is being shared. It's all isolated, and it's even isolated per person. So Boosted Bill cannot ever open two accounts. He can only open one loan with his, per wallet, and his loan is not associated at all with anyone else's loan. Okay. No liquidations, like I said, because they know that the floor is there, so they don't need to use oracles to check prices and liquidate things. Now, I wouldn't say there's no liquidations, but the docs does say no liquidations, but there are a kind of liquidation, okay, and that is if he goes over time. Okay, so let's first talk about why would he want to do this. Okay, so he can loop this. Okay, so he can buy some Caesar token. He can send that Caesar token as collateral and use it to borrow the USDC based on the floor price. And then he can use that USDC to buy some more. Okay. Now, why would he do this? It's because he's bullish on the price of Caesar token. He thinks the Caesar token will go up in value. There's no APR here. There's no liquidity farming. There could be points, but there's no points in there in baseline. It's just basically he's bullish on that token price, so he wants to leverage up. He wants to take like a leverage long on Caesar token, and he can loop it. He can loop, 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 and he can also baseline also has a one-click leverage feature where he can do this with a single click. So he can select his leverage of 2x, 3x, 4x, whatever, and then it will lever it up for him. Okay, so bloop, 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 bloop. Now, the risk here for him is that like if he because he's buying at market, right? So he's buying the token at market. He's actually increasing the market price by looping it, and the floor price is kind of sitting there, right? So if the price goes down, so if people start selling after he loops, and then he's like, oh, I got to get out of here, and he leaves, then he can have some loss there, okay? But if he's patient enough and the floor price does move up, right? So he could, in essence, even if he gets liquidated, he could maybe make some money and stuff like that. But boosted bills degen. So if you really want to dig deep and look more, please do. Do a little bit more math than what I'm kind of explaining to you. I'm just trying to giving you the understanding that this is a possibility. Now, let's say he doesn't return in time. Like I said, there are some liquidations, so to speak. He doesn't return in time. He doesn't repay his debt. Then all of his collateral, all of the Caesar token that has been added, will be sent to this thing called the afterburner. Okay, so time expires. His collateral is sent to the afterburner, and that is this system's kind of liquidations, okay? And he will keep whatever tokens he has inside his wallet at that time, whether it be USDC or whether it be more Caesar tokens, depending on how he looped it, right? Uh, Moving on, so we have a whole bunch of people have purchased the token. They have bought the token from the market. There's a whole bunch of people with tokens. The market price has been moving around, trading, and so forth like that. And because they're buying from this market, and it is Uniswap, there is a swap fee of 1%. So everybody who buys and sells through this will be paying 1%. Okay. Now that 1% is like protocol-owned swap fees. Okay. Caesar doesn't get them. Those they stay inside the baseline system, and then eventually they are sent to the afterburner as well. Now, what does the afterburner do? When the afterburner has enough Caesar tokens inside it, okay, from these liquidations as well as the swap fees, and there'll be USDC in here as well, but you'll understand it kind of in a second. It takes those and it loops up a whole bunch of times, as much as possible. So it's going to take its Caesar tokens, it's going to borrow some USDC from the pool at floor price, right? And then it's going to loop it, loop it, loop it. So it's going to actually buy a whole bunch. So it's going to send the market price up even higher, okay? So it's basically, and then it's going to allow that like that looping to expire, and then it's going to liquidate itself as well. Okay, just like dollar bill got liquidated, and those tokens are going to sit in here. So Caesar is going to get. So the looping of this thing is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger with small amounts of like kind of we'll call it loss, but it's not really loss because it stays in the system, and the other people who hold the token are getting that price appreciation. So the reason why they do this is because this system here, this afterburner, is constantly pushing the market price up with like these swap fees as well as liquidation, instead of just sending these swap fees back in, compounding them back into the liquidity, or tossing them on the floor and moving the floor up. It's actually pushing the market price up a little bit, okay, and creating some volatility inside the token, and then it makes people want to speculate and trade it and arb it and so forth, okay. Now there are these public features, these public functions that can be called, and is basically the first one is bump. Okay, so basically what the protocol will do is sometimes it will, like, anyone can call bump, right? And when you call bump, it's going to look at all of the circulating supply of these tokens, and it's going to look at the USDC sitting inside the pool, and then it's going to adjust that floor price. It's going to move that floor price up a little bit, right? So because based on the amount of, out and about Caesar tokens outside of this system, and inside dollar bill or inside the team or inside the plebs here who have bought in this token, and move this floor price up. Now anyone can try to call bump, and it will only work if the features, if the specs are met and it makes sense to do so. Okay. There's another feature called sweep, which basically rebalances the anchor and the discovery to market. So if market has moved a lot and it needs it wants to shape it like this again and it's out of shape, then sweep can be called and it will rebalance this anchor and this discovery to kind of create this shape somewhere over here or somewhere down here. Slide is to just basically rebalance the anchor down to the market, and drop is to pull the discovery down to market if it's gotten kind of out of range. Now, the protocol will do all these by themselves, but people can call them as well, okay? Moving on, we have inflation rate. This is something you have to look at per it's something set by Ceazor. So if you're going to buy this token, this is one of the things you have to research. You have to ask the project, the Ceazor project, what is the inflation rate? Because every time this thing is bumped, uh, it's going to mint some tokens. Hmm. Yeah, it's going to mint some tokens and send them to the team multisig. Okay, so it's basically how the team gets paid. They get paid in Caesar tokens and so forth. Now the team could just sell them, right, for USDC through the pool. However, there are a lot better ideas. Okay, so the team and these investors, instead of getting vesting tokens and stuff like that, they can participate in the leverage looping. Okay, so then if they are leveraged up, then they will be more invested in the project, in the sense that, oh, I want this to increase in value so that I'm increasing my asset holdings and so forth. So they are going to be wanting this floor price to move up as well, instead of trying to just sell, 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 and so forth. Now, every team will be different. Every team doesn't, I don't think they have to participate in this looping, and this inflation rate can just be purely just market sold, as far as I can tell. But you'd have to check with the team and find out, is the team going to be using the leverage or the loan system to get USDC, or to, instead of selling, or are they going to be like basically dumping on the buyers? That's up to them. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all I have today for this project here. It's kind of a longer video than I like. I'm gonna try to make these shorter again. But anyhow, I hope this has been useful and interesting. As always, go and read the docs, go join their Discord, find out some more about Baseline, and see if this is something that's interesting to you. Okay, thank you and goodbye.